Jamie Roberts.
Fran Strine.
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
Well, much better now that I'm talking to you. Thank you for coming on.
Of course.
Yeah. So for people that don't know, you run a PR firm called For the Win Media.
Yes, I do.
And predominantly music related stuff and authors.
Yeah, it's music. I've done some film. I've done some fine art kind of stuff.
Oh, cool.
I've done some comics conventions, which is kind of like stuff I'm personally interested in. So,
right. I did not know that you're a comic fan.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Really?
my nephew and I have gone to Comic-Con since he was 3.
Out here in San Diego or one there in New
No,
York?
in New York.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to San Diego. I'll probably get there one year, but
Right.
I've worked regional cons. I worked Winter Con on Long Island and New York. Let's see, not New York Comic Con because that's the main one. Another New York comic convention.
Right.
Yeah.
Fun. What comics are you into?
I am more into the whole like geek culture. I love anime. I love all like the toys and the superheroes, and I'm more DC than Marvel. I like kind of the darker stuff.
Yeah.
But,
same.
Yeah, I mean, I'm and I have 3 nephews. So
I did not. I thought you only had the one.
Oh, well, the one lives like kind of right here.
Okay.
So, and the other 2 are a bit older. They're my brother's sons.
Mm-hmm.
Now she's interested in what's going on outside.
Oh yeah, I hear her.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was doing a podcast with Chris Caffrey of Sabotage a couple of weeks ago, and his dog has an eating schedule, and it's a big German Shepherd, and it goes crazy.
Yeah, like, you can't mess with that.
Yeah, we had to stop the podcast, so we're going to pick it back up when it gets back from Europe.
Well, now I've got a little noisemaker here, so
cute. So we go back so many years.
Late 90s, right?
Yeah. So when I was first getting my kind of foot in the door with photography, you and Maria Gonzalez, I guess, were working at Roadrunner at the time. You invited me to the CMJ Fest, I think it was, at the old Roseland Ballroom.
Yeah.
And I took a picture backstage with Peter Steele, Bruce Dickinson, and Dave Mustaine together, like in the hallway. I was like, hey, can I snap a couple of photos? And I posted it, and it went viral. I mean, hundreds of thousands of views on that thing. So that was a powerful photo. Who knew that 30 some odd years later that it would still resonate?
Yeah, she's done with us, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. She wanted her moment of fame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's just dive into it then. When was the moment that you know that PR was your calling? Like, what enticed you to want to do public relations?
It's actually kind of embarrassing.
Oh, no.
There was a movie that was out when I was like in elementary school. Probably 5th grade or 6th grade, something like that. It was called The Idol Maker. And Peter Gallagher starred in it. And it was about a guy from like the neighborhood that makes all his friends into stars.
Oh, okay.
Because he isn't like meant to, he doesn't want to be on stage. And, so I watched it, and it was interesting because he was talking to people from magazines. It wasn't like a job that's recognizable to me now that I'm in the industry. But back then I was like, oh, you can do something other than being, a musician, which I knew I was not. So,
right.
So yeah, that's how I kind of started thinking about what else I could do in the music business. And So like since I was like 12 or 13, I've had a record on my birthday cake every year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Either a record or music, something about music, like everybody knew, like even I'm like back in touch with a few people I knew from back then.
yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we knew you'd be in the music business. Like that wasn't a question.
That's why. So I'm a failed musician, and yeah, so I was just like, in my road to where I'm at now is just sneaking my camera into concerts because I love going to concerts, and I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I captured those memories. I wasn't even trying to be a photographer. Now I don't think I really got serious until I met you guys, and then all of a sudden I'm getting all this work from Jerry Miller, who's not with us anymore, but she really kickstarted it all for me with letting me shoot. And I think, and you can touch on this too, but I think I had an advantage being in Atlanta at the time, because in New York and LA, there's only a limited amount of time that these artists will let you do photo shoots with them, right? Talk about that for a minute.
I think that's in any major city. I think for you, the thing that I liked about you and your work when I first saw it was that you had a good eye for composition of photos. Some people think it's just click of whatever is happening, but there's like a dynamic nature of certain photos that certain people are able to create. And your work did that.
Oh, thank you.
And I mean, just taking a picture, I mean, shit, I can do that,
Yeah.
But it's taking the right kind of picture. And but yes, to your point, any city other than New York, LA, or the band's hometown, wherever that might be, is kind of prohibitive to get photo shoots going, because in their hometown they're going to be with their friends and family, and you can't tell them they can't do that. In New York and LA, chances are there's a lot of friends also and family, but then there's also labels and industry people that they need to meet with and interviews they need to do. So it's like anywhere other than that. And I remember precisely why I reached out to you, because I needed a photographer to shoot Raina from Cold Chamber, and she lived in Atlanta.
That's right.
We needed a photo of her for a feature that Alternative Press was doing on her. So I was going through people's work, and I was like, oh, this guy seems like the guy to do it.
I remember that shoot. I did it at a friend of mine's photo studio, and he had a little beach set up. It was summertime.
Yeah.
So I put her, I think, on a horse carousel in the sand.
Yes, horse carousel. I remember the picture distinctly.
Yeah.
And and that was, I was like, okay, who's there and who's good?
Yeah. Well, thanks for that, because that got a lot of exposure for sure. Yeah.
Well, I got a good friend out of it, so that made me happy. I mean, all these years later.
Yeah. I got to credit you too for a lot of my work with doing like EPKs and stuff, because I know you hired me to do a bunch of behind the scenes stuff with like Three Doors Down and Nickelback. And
well, it's not easy to find people that are talented and reliable.
Yeah.
So once you find somebody, you hold on to them.
Yeah. Not only that, for me, I didn't have much going on in my life. I was working menial jobs as a warehouse forklift driver and stuff. And a lot of it was desperation to never go back to that. I've got to find my way and navigate my way through this new career that I want to really achieve. And thanks to you, man, you put me in that position. I mean, it was awesome.
We all kind of have that. We're all kind of searching when we're younger. And I was lucky to know what I wanted at a really early age.
Right.
And for a while, I didn't think it was realistic.
Yeah.
But, I'm a lucky person, in general. I have kind of gone without a net, just trusting my gut for a while.
Right.
It's always worked out. So, knock wood, I've done all right.
Yeah. And you were at Roadrunner when they kind of blew up, right?
The summer of 1997 was when I started working there.
Yeah,
and I
man.
had 5 bands on Ozfest that summer. Typo Negative, Vision of Disorder, Life of Agony, Machine Head, and God, who was the 5th? Cold Chamber.
Cold Chamber, yeah.
And I stepped in and they were like, okay, go. And I literally came there because when I interviewed at Roadrunner, I sat down with Case Wessels, the owner.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently they had a fraternizing problem at the label with the publicity department.
Really?
Yeah. And he was like, do you like metal? And I said, not really. I'm like, but it doesn't really matter what I like if I can, figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, do you date musicians? And I said, no. I said, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And he was like, you're hired.
Oh my God, it was that easy?
Well, I mean, he liked me because I was honest.
Right.
And then Jonas, he knew, my whole thing was I came from being an assistant. Because I was working for Tom Zutaut's company, The Enclave, right before that.
Right.
So I was an assistant to actually somebody I'm really friendly with still now.
Mm-hmm.
She did A&R and publicity. And so I hired indie publicists and did some publicity myself. And they were like, can you get Rolling Stone? When I interviewed at Roadrunner, I was like, sure. If what I have is good.
Right.
Or I can get Rolling Stone.
Yeah. I'll never forget this moment too that you turned me on to is when Nickelback first got signed to Roadrunner, and they were doing their first show in the States. It was in Atlanta at the $3 cafe on, oh God, what was it? What holiday? Where everybody drinks green beer.
St.
Patrick's Day. With Double Drive. They opened for Double Drive. And you called me like, could you please just go be a body in the audience? I'm like, for sure. Plus my friends' bands were playing. So that was my first exposure to Nickelback. And then, my God, man, that second record comes out. And what was that trajectory like at Roadrunner and for you?
Well, it was interesting because we were in this period of change at Roadrunner. Like Case wanted to just really widely open things up. So we absorbed a couple of other labels at that same time. There was this label in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where we kind of absorbed their roster. And Lord, I wish I remember the name of it. I'm going to kick myself later because I'll remember. But, we took their staff and their roster, and then we even had a hip hop label. And the guy that runs Merlin, the International Music Business Association, this guy Jim Mahoney was the head of that hip hop label and sat next to me in the office.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I did an Ultramagnetic MCs record with him.
That's wild.
Everyone's like, oh, so you're only working metal? I'm like, no, I had that Ultramagnetic MCs record. I had like these kind of country-ish records. I had the Junkie XL record at the time, which was awesome. And it was, we had a whole like variety of things. And when Nickelback came on, I was like, I get it, and Ron was playing songs for me.
Yeah.
And he played How You Remind Me. And I go, I don't think that's the single.
Oh my God, Jamie.
So I never trust myself to know the single anymore.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah. I remember I used to come to New York, I don't know, every 3 months or so just to make the rounds or whatnot. I would loiter at Roadrunner Records. Just come hang out. We had a
great bunch of people.
Yeah.
They're still all like family. We all hang out still.
Yeah. I remember going into Ron Berman's office and he's like, what do you think of this? Listen, it was Blackstone Cherry.
Yes.
I was like, this is killer, man.
That Blackstone Cherry came from that other label, I think.
Did they?
Yeah. The one we absorbed. It was it was really a good time. Like everybody goes, oh, we're a family, but like we really were at Roadrunner. Like we're all still on a WhatsApp group chat.
That
Like
is so
all
cool.
of us internationally. Like the head of our Australian office came in, a while ago, and we all got together at a bar, and it was great. And I got to reconnect with like Derek Schulman, who ran the label for a minute.
Yeah.
Like everybody was really cool that I worked with. Like still we're all friends.
Yeah. And I still talk to Maria from time to time. She's a big Pittsburgh Steeler fan too. So we keep in contact. Their football season a lot, and throw our phones against the wall because we've not been doing so well lately.
She's still wheeling and dealing, and you never quite know where she'll be at next, where she'll pop up.
I mean, I see her. She's hanging out with The Weeknd on tour, and like my God, man. So she's still doing something. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. She's still out there hustling, and
Yeah, and I remember too. I think it was either you or Maria sent me a press pack on Slipknot. You're like, you won't know what to look at first.
It might have been Maria.
Yeah, and she's like, you got to go. Can you cover this band? And I think between the two of you, you got me a gig with Metal Hammer US. I don't think it lasted very long, that magazine anyway.
No, it didn't. It probably was like a year.
Yeah. I only have one copy. And the reason I remember going buying it because they wanted me to be a photojournalist. I can barely write my name, but I went, you guys sent me to Ozfest with Slipknot when they were, 11 a.m. in the morning playing the second or third stage or whatever it was. And they put me on the bus to interview Mick Thompson, who is already an ominous figure, 7 feet tall, looks like the Undertaker. But we hit it off immediately, right? And,
I felt that way about Mick too when I first met him.
Yeah, a lot of people have weird things to say. He's so standoffish. I was like, no, man, you just got to get to know him. He's hysterical. Yeah,
he's one of those closed books until you like kind of get your finger in there and open it up. He's a really good person. I mean, most of those guys were.
Yeah, I miss all those guys so much. I saw them a few years ago. They played in San Francisco, and I wanted to go hang out with them and had to just reminisce. It was so much fun.
I saw them a number of years ago at Jones Beach, and I was standing back by the soundboard, and there's a point in the show where Clown jumps off the stage and walks back towards the soundboard. Well, he gets there, he sees me, and he goes, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Get back on stage."
Oh my God, that's so funny. Yeah.
After all these years, I mean, it's been a pretty long time.
Yeah, it's been a minute it's been maybe 5 years since I've seen any of those guys. But we always have a great time. It's like we never lost touch,
Well, I mean, a couple of weeks after I left Roadrunner, I get a text from Craig going, "What are we doing tomorrow?" And I'm like, "I don't even work there anymore.
Oh,
like, how do you not know this?"
Yeah. Kragermeister. Oh my God.
Yeah. So, it was a great experience, watching them grow into what they became.
I mean, they're just a behemoth now.
I remember booking them on Leno, and we're standing in the back while they're performing Duality.
Yeah.
And the booker is squeezing my arm like I thought she was going to draw blood.
Yeah.
And she's like, because Clown is humping the keg.
Yep. Oh my God.
You can't do that on national TV.
That's hysterical. Oh my God, baby. That's funny.
Yeah.
So tell me the story behind For the Win. What inspired that name?
Well, I was, I had started a company called Right Angle PR.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody else was funding it. And for a while we were doing gangbusters business, but stuff slowed down a little. And all of a sudden he was like, "What's going on?" And like fired people that worked for me. And like,
oh my God.
Yeah. And so we got into this whole big battle, and he kept using the name, even though I wasn't there anymore.
Mm,
And I felt like it was a victory when I was clear of him. So
yeah.
that's why I named the company what I named it.
Yeah.
But really, the overall sentiment of it is like, I'm going to do the best I can, and that's a win for me. Like, if you think you should be on the cover of Time magazine, good for you. If I think you should be on, is when you'll get on.
Yeah.
Like,
There you go. Yeah.
like I'm a realist. Like, I'm not going to tell you that you belong there just to blow smoke up your ass. I'm going to let you know what really can happen.
Yeah. So there's a whole campaign to PR, right?
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah. So walk me through that. So if a band gets signed, how do
What?
you
I don't
approach it?
even start with a band getting signed anymore,
No.
because that's not the way to go for most bands. If you don't need a radio campaign or a lot of like really costly things like that, it doesn't even make sense to sign with a label anymore, because there's so many people that can help you with the different aspects. And really, it's the best choice to run your own business as far as the band goes and make all the decisions so you know what works and what doesn't work.
Right.
You know, if you've done your own publicity and then you hire me, you'll know if I'm good at my job or not.
Right. What is it like navigating through social media now? Because so many of these bands and artists and influencers or whatnot have such a huge following. Where do you fall in that line?
I mean, I'm really practical with how I do campaigns. If like I actually am also a manager. And I have an artist that I manage who is an absolute unicorn. Like, I can't even compare him to anyone I've ever worked with before.
Oh, that's cool.
He's called Blacklight District. And he's got a really young fan base that's growing and growing and growing. But his fans are not what I'm used to, because most metal fans are like middle-aged dudes, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And his fans are like 13 to 21-year-old kids, and you know, some girls, some boys, and they're into Minecraft. And because he did a partnership with a creator on YouTube to do Minecraft music videos, and it was genius.
That's wild.
I mean, and what's wild is we were having this discussion because he started a label called AK-19 Entertainment. And his artist that he signed, he says to him, oh, well, you know, you make money off streaming. And I go, no, dude, you make money off streaming. Nobody else does.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Really? I'm like, uh-huh. He has a billion streams.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's like, that's why I tell him he's a unicorn. There's nobody like him business model wise. But anyone else, I mean, okay, what do you need to do well? Well, you need social media. Now, there's no label that's going to do that for you better than you can do it for yourself, because social media is about authenticity and putting the work in. And, you know, there's nobody else that can do that for you.
Right.
And then it's about great music. Well, you can do that yourself, you know, or you can get a producer. I mean, you can use the same people that labels use. I have, you know, a band that worked with Bob Marlette, who worked with, you know, Black Sabbath and Seether, and like, you know, he's worked with some of the biggest. And I've worked with people that have worked with him that didn't have a label deal.
Right. Right. It's funny you say that, because Herman Lee from Dragon Force is a dear friend of mine. Just salt of the earth guy.
Yeah, greatest guy
ever. And he's taken over the band. No manager, no producers, maybe an engineer.
Yeah.
You know, and they just do everything themselves now. He's the tour manager. He's the manager. He does it all.
He's saving money and he's learning.
When his wife did the accounting, she did like a forensic accounting on the management. She's like, you're getting robbed millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need any of these parasites.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, honestly, like, creative marketing ideas, you can hire a marketing consultant. I do that quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working with a band now called Half Heard Voices. And they're this amazingly talented progressive rock band. But they could widen their world so much because of their talent, but they weren't sure how.
Right.
And the band I manage, like my favorite band of all time, All the Pretty Things that I manage, toured with them. And that's how I met them. And I was like, wow, that band's really good. But this and this and this and this. And I was like, I should talk to them.
Right.
Because they were like, we love that band. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to talk to them then. And now I'm working with them. And, it's from things as little as I look at this picture of you and can't tell what your music sounds like. And I should be able to tell what kind of band you are by looking at your picture.
That is true. Image and perception is just about everything, right?
Right. And if people aren't going to know your name, they better look at it and go, oh, that's a band I'd like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your album art should always be iconic. Like, don't make it too busy. Don't make it too, ornate. Make it simple and easy to recognize from a block away if you put a sticker on a lamppost.
Exactly. What are your thoughts on music videos? Are you more of a performance type video person, or do you like the whole story narrative type thing?
I'm a person that thinks long form videos aren't worth the money.
Exactly. Same here. Same here. Yeah.
I think you should make loads of short form content instead of making a long video, because there are some places you can play a video. And I mean, if you're going to do a lot of short form content, you can probably do like a performance piece and just throw it up as an official video.
Right.
It's fine. It's good for Vivo. It's good for, getting on Vivo playlists. It's, Maria Ferrero, my friend, has a show on MTV Live called Metal Thrashing Madness. It's on Saturday nights at midnight.
I had no idea. I'm going to tune in.
Yeah. And it's all hard rock stuff. So you can go there, but, nothing that moves the needle needs an ornate video.
Right.
Perform your song, do some other stuff, but use it for short form content.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because that's what's going to move the needle.
Yeah. Let's talk about this for a minute. So since I've been in the filmmaking realm and have won some and received some really cool awards, and that brings people to the table.
Yeah.
So I'm friends now with like the senior vice president of HBO and Disney and a bunch of people like that. And I have filmmakers coming to me at like a film festival. I'm doing a panel or whatnot. And it's like, hey, can you help me, do this or that? I'm always down to talk to somebody. But when they're asking for my personal Rolodex, what's off limits to Jamie Roberts?
I mean, here's the thing. I will pull you a list off Cision or Muckrack or whatever and give it to you, because I don't know those people.
Right.
A list is not what I'm proprietary about. My relationships are. Like, there's some things that are worth it. Like, a friend called me yesterday and she's like, I'm working Tom Morello's next single and this political angle and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, who you should talk to? Rick at CNN. And she's like, I don't know him. And I go, wait, you'll know him in 5 minutes. And I introduced her via email.
Right.
And now they're talking about it. But, I'll do that because I think it's right for both parties.
Sure.
Not just I need a thing from my friend and here it is.
Yeah.
Like, if I didn't think it would be something he would want, I would never have introduced them.
Yeah.
So, if it's going to benefit both parties, totally I'm down. And I've given a lot of people a lot of help in a lot of ways. I believe in that because it comes back to you.
Exactly. Same here. Yeah. But if somebody's asking me, hey, can you get me the acquisition person at HBO's email or cell number? Unless it's something I'll look at and see the sizzle or the trailer and it's something I can't turn away from, I don't know. I'm kind of walking on eggshells on that one. Especially if I don't know the person. Yeah.
Never give cell phone numbers because people are
Yeah.
stupid with that stuff.
Yeah. They'll just never just relentlessly blow them up. Yeah. So with that being, what does a great PR campaign look like in 2025 with so many angles going on now? Like, how do you navigate all these new things?
Well, here's the thing. You have to incorporate all the new things. You can't, like, there's nothing anymore that's like straight PR. Like, you have to incorporate everything that exists. And my nephew's texting me. I'm sorry.
No.
He took his regents, and I'm like, he's giving me his scores.
Oh, cool.
How, if you get an 86, do you have to retake a regents? All right. I don't know. Goes way over my head. It's algebra too, and I could never help him in that.
Right.
Sorry.
No.
What were we talking about?
So what's a great PR campaign look like in 2025?
Yeah. So we have to take into account everything that's happening. So social media, you have to take into account. You have to take into account playlisting. You have to take everything into account. Create materials that all reflect one another. You have to keep reinforcing the name, reinforcing the logo, making people recognize the name of that band. Like, all the Pretty Things were brand new. We started from zero, but now most people in the industry I talk to have heard of them.
I've heard of them. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Because we kept at it. We kept putting the name out there. And so you have to employ all of those things in order for anything to work. I mean, like, if I get a client tomorrow and they're like, get me interviews, I'd be like, about what? You know?
Right.
And like, oh, my song, it's great. Well, not enough. Sorry. A good song is not enough these days. You know, like, you talked to my client, John, last night, and John's an interesting case because he's got like 3 amazing songs that you'd think you would hear on the radio.
Yep. So good.
And I heard them and I was like, you're very talented, but let's flesh out what's interesting about you. And, you know, he's an interesting dude. He's very spiritual. He's very in tune with kind of the fragility of the human race these days.
Right. As we all should be.
Yeah. And he's writing for people.
Dude, after our interview last night, we continued talking after we stopped recording for another hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
He's so interesting.
I can just put him in the room and he'll sell it.
Right. He did. He sold me for sure. You know, and I've listened to the music all day yesterday. It was really, really good.
Yeah.
What makes an artist make your job easy or make it difficult?
The artists that make my job easy put in the work. John puts in the work. I tell John we need this, this, and this. It's done like yesterday.
Right.
You know, you know, it's funny, even like people have been doing it forever, like Kenny Hickey from Typo Negative. I text him, when can you do this? Right away.
Oh, wow.
You know, because he knows I have to take care of this because this is important. You know, he knows because he's been doing it forever.
Right.
You know, like, he knows, like, you got to make time for interviews. He's got a family. He's got a million things going on. And he makes my job easier because he makes himself available when it's necessary.
Right. When you have somebody like me that's a photographer call you up and want to do, you know, take live pictures at a venue or whatnot, what is your stance when you see somebody with an iPhone or just a point and shoot at the stage?
Here's the thing. If, like, people with a point and shoot or an iPhone, they won't get a chance to go backstage and take pictures of the band.
Right.
But you will. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, it's okay if you take some pictures, because if you were in the audience, you could take some pictures with your phone. What do you need a photo pass for? You know what I mean?
Right.
They just think it'll get them closer to the band.
Mm.
And you can mostly, for the most part, you can sniff that out. But even if you don't, like, I don't think it's a big loss, because if they wanted something more involved or more access to the band, you take a longer time to vet them.
Right.
You know, like, shoot whatever, publish whatever you want. Like, you know, it's just more for us. But like, at the end of the day, unless you are a photographer, you are not getting backstage to shoot my band, you know?
You know, this one stumped me for a long time until I figured it out on my, I never thought to ask you or anything, but you know, generally when you get a photo pass, unless you're touring with the band like I got to do for many years, you get to shoot the first 3 songs. Why is that?
It's because artists get tired.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they get tired, they get sweaty. The further along in the set you go, the more tired they look.
Right. Sweaty and gross.
They're going to be first 3 songs.
Yeah.
And no flashes, because you don't want to blind the person.
That's funny you say that. My second time shooting Slipknot live was at the Masquerade in Atlanta, and it's a really dimly lit stage. And Mick and Clown were always so fucking cool to me. They're like, dude, the photo pit was a trough, right? Like, you had to crawl into this trough and you're just squatted down. They're like, dude, just jump on stage. If you see a shot, just jump up here and do it. And I'm like, you guys are blind when you're playing. Am I going to lose a limb or go blind or some shit, you know?
Right.
But I did. I jumped up there and I had a flash.
Wow.
You know, and I just saw a picture earlier today I took, and Clown is like covering his eyes. He probably was like, why are you?
It's like, if you want pictures like that, sure, use a flash.
Yeah.
You know, like,
it's
very practical.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's some bands, like, I worked with a Japanese band, and you had to shoot them from the soundboard because they wore masks, and they didn't want you shooting under their masks.
Oh, okay.
So I get that. Like, usually if there's a restriction, it's for a practical reason.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. That makes a lot. And the reverse happened with Metallica. Like, I've shot them a few times, and they're like, you get to shoot the last 3 songs. Mm. So you have to sit through 2.5 hours. And I love Metallica.
Yeah.
But let's say I just wanted to, you know, didn't want to stick around for 2 or 3 hours, you know, you had to.
I was always happy I could leave after the first 3 songs.
There's a lot of shows I think that, you know.
Yeah.
And now if I'm out shooting, it's not like, you know, how do you make money as a photographer now? You know, unless you're doing a big album cover shoot for like Dolly Parton or some other artist. You know,
I'm trying to think why they do the last 3 songs. Maybe they're the big crowd pleasers.
Maybe, I don't know.
Going nuts, and they want to be sweaty in the photos. I don't know.
They were sweaty because they don't stop. Yeah, they go nuts, you know. Yeah,
I'm sure.
I remember when you at the CMJ Fest too. I definitely used the flash because I saw some of those pictures, and I shot Megadeth, and they were definitely blinded. You know, they didn't say anything, but they were cool about it. Yeah,
it's all very like zoom out and see how practical it is. You know.
Yeah, and that was
really all we're trying to do is get through the show.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was just trying to do what I could to break in. And it's funny, some fans sent me a picture. They must have been on stage at the Masquerade during the Slipknot show that I photographed that day. They have a picture of me in the trough with my camera shooting the band with my big ass flash on the camera.
Really?
And I'm like, how the hell did you find this?
That's wild.
But thank you for sending it to me, you know.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it was a cool piece of memory for me, for sure.
I'm sure.
Without naming any names, unless you want to, who's the biggest pain in your ass artist that was just hard to make budge and move the needle to do what you needed to do to make your job easy and to give them a lot of promotion?
I'm wondering if I should use his name. No.
Okay.
And he was a pain in the ass. He was a pain in the ass, not because he was trying to be.
Right.
he always had something else to do.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I was bothering him with
Right.
press. And then sometimes I'd schedule an interview and he'd be talking to his gardener the whole time.
Right.
And the journalist would be like, "Do you hear me?" And I'd have to break in and go, "He hears you. He's just talking to his gardener." Like, you know, it was like, I don't think he sat there and said, "Let me fuck this up for her." Like, but because he's a nice guy,
Mm-hmm.
but he just didn't do himself a service this way. And it was frustrating to work with them because any interview I wanted them to do, most they would turn down. And if they didn't turn it down, they would fuck it up.
Oh, wow. Well, I'll tell you mine. I'll just say the name, Aaron Lewis from Stained.
Yeah, I know.
So I did 8 years with Stained in the studio, touring, the whole 9 yards. And we have a great relationship, even though we battle politically, right? I just saw him a couple of weeks ago. And
Yeah.
oh, yeah, nothing's changed. But to get him to do any kind of photo shoot or an interview or a band shoot, he just wouldn't do it. I'm like, hey, man, let's do it. Well, you know, I think I got one. I snapped one picture that became kind of an iconic shot of him in Montana at the Gibson factory. He did a Gibson acoustic signature series guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just kind of cradling it. I was like, Aaron. And he turned around, snap. And that thing ended up on posters, merch, one picture, you know. And his tour laminate was that shot, but it was one frame.
And I'm sure he was mad at you for taking it, too.
Oh, he's probably, yeah, I'm sure he was pissed off at me. But I love the guy, man. We were family. You know what I mean? It's like we could fight and argue. And
well, that was like when Three Doors Down, when I sent them. Remember that time I wanted you to go to Europe with them and you didn't have a passport?
Yep.
Well, when they got back from that trip, I got in trouble at Universal because I didn't ask permission to send them. To send a photographer with them. I just sent them.
Yep.
And the band was fine with it, but the label was all mad at me. And then they made an award-winning video out of the footage. And I'm like, mad at me now?
Exactly. Yeah. Dude, when I went down to shoot the original video, you know, you sent me down there to do the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you were there, were you? When the hurricane came in and wiped out the whole set. But I still talk to Chris Henderson to this day, you know.
Yeah.
And Daniel Adair. But we were in mud so deep, I came out with a rash. I don't know what the fuck it was. It was like these giant red swelches all over my legs.
Oh, my God.
I think everybody got it that had exposed
skin.
Yeah, we were out in the middle of nowhere in Pascagoula, like the River Reserve. And we had to have the Coast Guard come out and like get us out of there. We had no idea there was a hurricane coming. And then that set was 30 feet underwater by 3 a.m. Yeah, so we had to find.
I called you last time I saw Daniel, right? I think I texted you a picture of Daniel and I.
Yes.
Yeah, at the Nickelback listening party.
Yeah. Yep, I still see. I talk to all those guys still, and Mike Kroger. He came out. Mike Kroger came to my screening of the Ray Parker Jr. movie.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was so cool. And then Daniel, you know, hooked me up. They played the Forum in LA, so I went to that show. It was so much fun.
Nice.
They still put on a great show.
They always did. They were always amazing showmen. In fact, I think most of my hearing loss is due to them with the explosions.
Yes.
One day I'm walking around and they didn't tell me they were testing the explosions. And I passed by one when it goes off and the whole band's laughing. And I'm like, hello, I'm deaf.
Oh my God. That was some of my most fun touring moments were those guys, you know, and they were so cool. They were up for anything, you know, as far as photos and video goes.
And they're the perfect example of how a band should start out.
Absolutely.
They did all the work. They put in all the work. They gained the expertise to know, you know, how it should be done. And then they signed to a label.
Yeah. Slipknot was that way too, man. They were fearless. Like when I wanted to do shoots with them, I remember at that Masquerade shoot, like it was like a session, right? A photo session. I had them all cram into this little bird cage thing. I mean, it wasn't so small.
I remember that photo.
Yeah. that was crazy. I was like, do you think you guys could fit into this thing? We'll try, and they just cram themselves in there. Um, yeah. Do you ever turn down artists? Like, do you see a red flag every now and then and be
Yes.
like, I can't work with this camp. It's
Yes.
already hard enough,
If somebody doesn't have the time to put in, and I can tell, and I can also tell that they're a bit off on where they're starting from.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I recently had a client, I had started to work with her, and then the way people do their business is very indicative about how it's going to go.
Right.
And I got paid for the first month, but I didn't get paid for the second month. And then in the middle of the second month, she was trying to negotiate my fee down. And I was like, dude, you are liable to pay me.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? Bye. You know, I'm not going to fight for money that I'm owed. I'm not going to beg for it. And still, she thinks she paid me.
Mm.
She'll still text me going, how are you doing? And I'm like, I'm doing great without you.
I can hear you say that too.
I mean, I of course say it to myself, but yeah.
Right. I got some pet peeves and real talk for you. I wrote down some questions here. What's something artists do that drives you absolutely crazy? Just makes you cringe?
Blame everyone else for stuff they've done.
Okay.
Never take responsibility for anything.
Right. No accountability.
No accountability whatsoever.
What's your least favorite phrase to hear in the business?
You can't. Because chances are I can if I do it a different way.
I always tell people in my business anyway, and probably in yours too, you always, if there's something you want, don't be afraid to ask for it. Right?
Well, yes. And also, I'm never going to tell you that's never going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to tell you is it's difficult because of X, Y, and Z. But if we do A, B, and C, we can get there in time.
Right. Exactly. That's good. What's one thing you wished every artist understood before hiring a publicist?
I wish every artist understood that it's a process that takes a while. It's not instant fame. They expect you to be a magician, but if you really look at it, yeah, I know the people you want to cover you, but if I threw them every person that came up to me asking me to do it, they wouldn't trust my judgment anymore.
Right.
So I have to be selective of what I work with so that they'll know if it's coming from me that it's got potential.
Okay. So you kind of have an incubation period before you just go nuts.
Well, I mean, also, you can't give me money and leave. You know what I mean? You have to participate.
Right.
If you hire me, I'm going to make work for you. And it's funny because Escape the Fate are the perfect example of this. I love those guys. And they've grown as human beings over the last bunch of years that I've known them. And they used to, back in the day, they used to go oh, the label hates us and we don't want to do press and and I was just why would you be like that? Doing press helps you.
Right.
Doesn't help me. I don't make any more money if you do interviews. And I think it was because they weren't sober back then. And now that Craig is sober, he gets it. He is locked in. He is the best client to have because everyone loves him. You know, if you put somebody in front of Craig Mabbitt, they will fall in love.
Right.
Right.
That's so cool.
And, yeah.
If you could ban one industry behavior forever, what would it be?
When I give somebody an idea and they are and And then when a man gives them the same exact idea, they go, that's brilliant. Why didn't anyone think of that?
Right. Right.
Still happens all the time.
I can imagine. PR horror stories. What's the messiest situation that you've had to clean up? Have you ever had to come in and do any kind of like sniping for an artist?
I mean, not like super heavy. Like Stormy Daniels at one point I was talking to about handling her, and that would have been crazy.
Oh my God.
Fortunately, I didn't get that client. What was meant to happen happened.
Yeah.
But the closest I can think of is I was at Ozfest, like juggling a million things, and I get a call from the Vancouver Sun. And they say, do you have a comment about Chad Kroeger getting arrested for drunk driving?
Oh, God.
And I go, I would if I knew. You know?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
let me know. I'll call management. You know?
Yeah.
And then, you know, because the most sensible thing to do in a situation that's bad is just be quiet.
Yeah. People forget about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not such big news.
Yeah, because there are just firms that just deal with crisis, right? Like crisis PR firms. Who wants that gig? That sounds stressful.
Yeah, that sounds really stressful. And I mean, I've done like, you know, when people passed away or, you know, when somebody got like canceled for something or whatever. And it's like, you just say, listen, you did this, admit it and move on. Nothing cauterizes a wound like the truth.
Right.
If you can be straightforward, do it. And then there's nothing else to talk about. And if you can't, don't say anything. Let them figure it out on their own.
Okay. Legacy and impact. This is my last set of questions for you. What does winning look like for you at this point in your career?
When a band that I love streams 1 million streams. Like when I get a press piece for someone, they're excited about it. Like Alan Niven, my friend did a piece on him for the LA Times.
Right.
Another friend of mine interviewed him for Loudwire Nights.
I interviewed him.
You interviewed him.
Yeah, he was fun.
And yours is one of the quotes we're using.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, you know, I was happy because Alan's lovely.
Yeah.
And that was a big win for me, telling him he was going to be in the LA Times.
That's huge.
On Loudwire Nights, because that's big, and that's getting it to all the people that would want to read his book, and that makes me happy. I like the little wins now. Like everybody else is like, late night TV. I mean, my biggest win in my entire career, in my mind, was getting Dillinger Escape Plan on Conan.
I remember that. Yeah.
That band never thought they would be on late night television. And they did an awesome job.
Right. That is so cool. I was going to say, well, you just answered that question. What was the artist or project you're most proud of working on?
Well, I'm proud of a lot of things that I've done. I've had the good fortune of being involved in a lot of cool things. Like I got to go a lot of cool places with Nickelback, like the American Music Awards, and then we hung out with all their country music friends, and that was fun.
Yep.
Like Big and Rich they were friends with, and we saw Destiny's Child. I did the Grammy nomination announcements with Chad one year, and we were just staring at Mariah Carey backstage.
Wow.
Like, it was wild. Like we got to do some great things, Chad and I. Like that was amazing. When Slipknot won the Grammy, finally, that was amazing.
Oh, I've got a funny story about that.
Oh, yeah?
So Mick recommended me, Mick Thompson, that is, to shoot his campaign for Ibanez when he signed with them a long time ago. He's like, hey, man, you want to come up to Iowa and stay with me and do this photo shoot thing and go eat some beef? I'm like, sure, man. So I go up and spent a week with him. But I go to his house. I'm like, hey, man, where's your bag? I got to take a piss. He goes, it's right there. His Grammy was on the back of his toilet.
Yeah. That makes full sense to me.
It does, man. He does not care. He just wants to play music and
Right.
have fun.
That's when it's better.
Yeah.
For them to win it. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I was so happy for them.
Yeah.
And that was a wild Grammy thing. And then after they won and we went through like the winner's press thing, I went back to my hotel, took my shoes off, and had In-N-Out burger. And it was the most gratifying dinner I could have had.
Right.
I didn't go in and watch because I could watch it on TV.
Exactly.
But yeah, so that with Nickelback, with Slipknot, working with Dillinger for the last 8 to 10 years of their careers, and Ben is a genius. So that was great to get to work with them. I feel very strongly about Escape the Fate and when Craig got sober and all the press we did about that and how he's become this amazing role model. I take such pride in that. And at the same time, Johnny from Nothing More, when I did the Jenny campaign with him for mental health and getting to do good things like that, good works like that with my clients, like, that's priceless to me.
Yeah, that is so cool. Who inspires you in the music industry these days?
The old school publicist that had to deal with like horrendous things. Like I was talking to Alan about Bryn Bridenthal, who was the publicist at Geffen back in the Guns days.
Yeah.
She was an icon. Susan Blonde, who was this amazing publicist and was like in the zeitgeist of everything. Mitch Schneider, who's been around forever, and I love that guy. And I'm fortunate to be friends with him. The people that do what I do at that level that they did it at that time when you could do it at that level.
Right.
That's awesome. I mean, my friend Ellen and I were on the phone yesterday, Ellen Solis, and she and I, like, she's also somebody I look up to because she was doing it she was Pearl Jam's first publicist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she was heavy duty, man. And she worked for me when I had Right Angle, and it was like, wow, like, and my mentor, Layla Turkan, like, we're still friends. She ran a company called Set to Run PR. In like the early 90s, there was an ad in the back of the Village Voice that said, do you like hip hop and alternative rock music? Fax your resume. That's all it said. I faxed my resume and I wound up interning at Set to Run PR. We worked with Public Enemy, the Beastie Boys.
Wow.
Boogie Down Productions, Ice Cube, The Cure. I remember Dramarama for some reason.
Right.
But yeah, we did so much cool stuff, and I worked for all these great publicists there. Layla owned the company, but then like I worked with Jocelyn Lobel, who was at Columbia Records for a while. I worked with Susan Mainzer, who has her own company. I think it's called Green Galactic. I worked with Leslie Pitts, who we unfortunately lost a number of years ago. And I met so many friends that I've had since, but Layla was like, she grew up with the Beastie Boys, and she would blow in with an entourage, and like I was in awe of her, and now we're like friends. We just like talked an hour ago.
That is so cool. So if people want to reach out to you to have them be your publicist, what's the best way to hit you up?
Yeah, I mean, I do publicity and I also do marketing consulting. Like if you want to release a record on your own, I can help you get distribution and position it and all of that stuff. And For the Win, FORTHEWIN.media is my website.
Okay.
And also on that site, you can look through all the records I've worked and all the non-record things that I've worked. I actually have to update it, but it gives you a good sense of my history and what I'm capable of doing. And really for that, look at all the pretty things. That's from A to Z for me. That's my number one favorite band of all time.
That is so cool. And look at me. Without you, I would not have been able to achieve any of this. I solely credit you for
recognize talent then.
Well, thank you so much. Last question. Last one, I promise. With your job, have you ever been starstruck by a client?
Yes.
Who?
Trisha Yearwood.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I worked with Trisha Yearwood, and I was also stunned by how cool she was.
Oh, okay.
Like, we were at a hotel and she was doing interviews, and we were trying to get to the rooftop bar, and we kept going around in circles trying to find the door. And she was like, "Hello, Cleveland." And I was like, "Oh my God, I love you." Like,
that was so cool.
She was amazing.
I've only had two one of them was obviously Dolly Parton. And for those of you that don't know, I've shot.
If I ever met her, I might cry.
Yeah. I almost did, yeah. So I've shot two of her album covers. The first one, I was on tour with Stained at the time, and we were in Arkansas. And Danny Mazzell, who's her manager now, he called me up. He's like, "Hey, man."
Tour manager.
Yes, Slipknot's old tour manager.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's crazy. But he calls me up. He's like, "Hey, man, we're looking to revamp Dolly's image a little bit, and you've shot a bunch of rock and metal stuff, not that we want her to look like Slipknot or anything, but a little bit more of an edge." He goes, "Could you do the shoot?" I'm like, "Man, I'd be honored." "When?" "Tomorrow." I'm like, "Shit." I go, "I'm on tour with Stan." We go, Mike Mushaw kind of ran the show with Stan. So I went to him. I'm like, "Dude, I got this opportunity to shoot Dolly Parton, but it's tomorrow." And before I could say another word, he goes, "Get the fuck out of here. Go. Just fly back whenever you're done."
Yeah.
So I did that. So, and I show up in, me, shorts, flip-flops, and a t-shirt, and she's camera ready, 10 a.m. I had my crew up there the day before, pre-lighting everything. So we did the shoot.
She is a saint. Saint Dolly.
She is exactly what you see on television in the press. I mean, no different. I mean, just kind, generous. Like, she treated the crew so well.
That's the mark of a real star.
Yeah.
That they know how to treat people. Trisha was like that. And you know who else that I worked with that was like that? Nick Lachey.
Really? You know who was always cool to me? Was Peter Steele.
Oh, he was lovely, but he used to torture me like a little sister. So
did he?
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he used to be like disgusting with me, and I would punch him, and that was the kind of relationship he and I had.
Was it a play relationship, or was it really?
It was like, he did the stuff he had to do, and I was like, "Come on, Peter," because you had to beg him to do anything.
Really?
I had to bribe him with bottles of wine.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
But I knew what I had to do, and every time it worked. But
he's a guy
around with me a lot when we would drive around in LA.
Yeah.
He was a good guy.
I loved him, man. He would do anything. Hey, man, there's a pool table in the room. So I'd throw him the 8-ball. He stuffed it in his mouth. Ready?
Oh, yeah. I remember that picture.
Stuff like that. Or like, did they play with Metallica?
Yeah, they must have at some point.
Yeah, I think they did, because we were backstage. I think it was at a Metallica show. And I was like, "Mind if I take some photos of you? You were just in the green room or whatnot." He's like, "Yeah, man." There's a bowl of apples. So he picks up an apple and just, he's got those fangs. He just bites into the apple. Ready? Yep.
Yeah.
He would just do just about anything you asked him to do.
Oh, yeah. I remember we did that shot that, I forget who did it. Stephanie Cabral did with visors on the beach at night with the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember driving Kenny to that.
Yeah. She's a great photographer and super cool.
Oh, yeah.
She's
metal. She knows everybody.
Yeah, she does. Anyway, well, look, thank you so much
for
everything.
Talk to
you too. Great. Thank you for everything you've done for me and for all the other media people, because without you, we don't have a career, and you're a legend. So I appreciate it.
Anytime you need anything,
Yeah. Oh yeah, and likewise. Not that I have that much pull, but
No, you help me a lot.
yeah, yeah. Anything you need.
I appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Ah,
Mwah. Bye.
bye.